Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome back to the Men and Prophets podcast, everyone. I know. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Rylan. We got Rylan in the back. You running the production.
Super annoying.
Running the
Okay.
production.
I don't have to be here. Okay.
This is season 4, episode
Season 4.
3.
Dang.
The
Bro, can you shut up?
discipleship series.
I lost count. My
We've been
bad.
gone for a while.
Bless you.
Anyways, this series question, as you guys know if you've watched the previous episodes, is what is a disciple and how do we become one?
Mm-hmm.
This episode is going to cover how do I become a disciple.
Yeah, and it's kind of going to be more of an overview than anything because it's going to be introducing the 3 parts of how we can summarize becoming a disciple. The easiest way to kind of put that is that kind of path that we'll follow in this video is that we want to be with Jesus, we want to become like Jesus, and we want to do as he did. That is our easiest and simplest way to put it, and so that's how we'll be splitting this up and splitting up the next future episodes in this series.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we have our first topic of the episode, and that is being with Jesus. So we'll kind of gloss over that and go over some important ideas and such. So
yeah, our central goal is being with Jesus. Oh, sorry. Our central goal in being with Jesus is to develop our mind to always go back to God, no matter the circumstance.
Yeah, we see that in verse James 4:8. Where it says, "Come near to God, and He will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded." And that's just like an obvious thing right there. Yeah, like what you said in that first thing, we want to always train our minds to come back to Jesus in the times of just when we have like nothing to do or when we're in like the important decisions. You know, like maybe you're just standing in line to get something to eat. Instead of just standing in line waiting and taking out your phone, maybe you think about Jesus or you think about something about it, or you bring Jesus up in important times and important decisions.
Like, think about how your next interaction can be for Jesus, like whether that's spreading the word or even just talking to someone, even just being nice to somebody.
Yeah.
Spreading love.
Yeah, having that at the front of your mind, would make it a lot harder for you to say something or do something mean. It'd kind of be like a check.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a double check. Like, oh, you really want to do that?
It's an easy way to catch your second thought or your first thoughts, I guess.
Yeah. And one thing we're going to go over is how this is like something that one thing that we're going to cover a lot in this whole discipleship series is the time that it takes. The whole entire it takes a lifetime to come even close to what we want to be and what we want to do with our lives when we're discipling Jesus and we're discipling under Jesus. So yeah, it takes a long time. So.
Yeah. Good quote by John Mark Comer.
Yeah.
And practicing the way, guys. We haven't mentioned this guy yet. Like, who's John Mark Comer? Come on,
no
guys.
idea.
Read the quote. We don't listen to his podcast. The quote says, "Apprenticeship to Jesus is about turning your body into a temple, a place to overlap between heaven and earth, an advanced sign of what one day Jesus will do for the entire cosmos, when heaven and earth are at long last reunited as one. This is the single most extraordinary opportunity in the entire universe, to let your body become God's home, and it's set before you every single day."
Yeah. And it's set before everyone.
Yeah.
Which is something that I'm going to follow that quote up with a verse, Acts 4:13. When they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. Normal guys. These fishermen,
Just guys.
And they could partake in this, one of the greatest things, or the greatest thing offered to mankind. Everyone can partake in it.
Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, and like John Mark Comer said, it's the single most extraordinary opportunity
in the entire universe.
Yeah. We can let God, dwell in us, and we can let Him, take control. Take control and flood our minds with His thoughts and His will, and we can, as long as we trust that His will is greater than our own, and that He truly wants what's best for us, and He knows what's best for us over, what we know. because obviously he knows everything. So, oh, okay,
Well, you can still hear it on these microphones.
he does
Or
have
just
the headset on.
Why don't we just not play sound? All right, whatever.
But yeah, I mean that's just an important topic.
Yeah, we're all being formed into something or someone. It's not a choice of if, but what. At the end of that last quote, it said, "It's set before you every single day."
Mm-hmm.
You don't choose the day; it's always there. Just depends on. I gotta stop saying it just depends on. If,
Bro goes from to
It just depends on if you see it, and just, act on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's set before you every single day, and like we said, it's a choice. So there's something else that's set before you every single day, and that's a lot harder to see because that's just what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Your everyday life, what you're doing right now. You're formed by everything that you do, everything that you say, every decision you make, no matter how small or minuscule. Those decisions that you make accumulate over time, and that's what makes you into the person that you become. And that's very important to keep that mindset every day, to know that just those little decisions every single day are what will make you into the person that you want to become, or into the person that you that you dread. So it's simple, but it's hard.
Yeah. It's like the the fact that the people clicked on this video instead of the millions and billions of other things that you can do on your phone.
Mr. Beast, try not to die challenge.
They decided to click on Men and Prophets and learn about God.
Yep. Yeah, there's a quote by M. Robert Mulholland Jr. Everyone is in a process of spiritual formation. We are being shaped into either the wholeness of the image of Christ or a horribly destructive caricature, whatever that means. Caricature. Thank you, caricature of that image. Destructive not only to ourselves, but also to others, for we inflict our brokenness upon them. The direction of our spiritual growth infuses all we do with imitations of either life or death. That just sums up perfectly what we're talking about.
Dang, yeah.
Every single thing that you do will have its effect on your life. And that doesn't mean that every single decision you make has to be good, because obviously that's not possible.
Yeah, no.
But we want to shoot to do the best that we can.
Everyone is in a process. Just depends on what you take it.
Yeah.
Where you take it.
Yeah, and this whole idea of like that we're all being formed is something that really helped me understand this, just to understand that if I'm not a disciple to Jesus, I'm a disciple to something.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm either a disciple to my phone, I'm either a disciple to money, I'm a disciple to some online internet influencer or some political person. I am a disciple to someone, and I will become like
Would
the
you
stereotype or whatever.
Would you call that more of a disciple or a slave at that point? Because there's a difference between following and just being stuck with.
I would call it a disciple because it's a choice. None of us are. We have one of our privileges here in America is that we can choose. There's a difference. I get what you're trying to say though, because there is like the slave to sin thing, and there's like being a slave to sin or being a slave to righteousness. That's kind of like a different thing. You can choose who you follow, but like we're all still going to obviously stumble into sin. So there's kind of like a gray line there. But I would say that you can choose who you disciple under, at least who you follow.
So I think we talked about this on a long time, like a podcast a while ago. Do you believe in the what is it, like God already has everything planned out for you, and like your life is already decided? He knows every single move you ever will make. What's that called again?
Foreknowledge.
No, not foreknowledge.
Predestination.
Yes. So do you believe in that, or do you believe that you truly do have a free will?
So that is a whole.
Not necessarily, because if you have a free will to put your phone down, or if
so
you just can't.
God is fully in control, and He is fully sovereign. But in His sovereignty, He gave us free will. God does know what is going to happen. He does know what you're going to do because He is omnipotent. He's not bound by time. But there's a lot of ways that this can stem off. So I'm just gonna try and keep it simple. God is fully in control, but we also fully have free will. So we can make decisions of our own, but God does know what we are going to do. And so he can use good and evil for his good. And that's a deep topic. That's like a whole series. That's not even just an episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one.
Next series, maybe.
What?
It's the next series. Winky face emoji.
We were thinking about either doing that or like some sort of like counterculture series or like something like that where we talk about popular cultural beliefs and we compare them to like the way of Jesus and how they differ. Or we can do something like that. That takes a lot of research. That's gonna take a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do want to do that because that is a big topic.
Yeah,
it's widely debated.
Yeah,
that's the best answer.
Another topic: do you believe when you die, do you go straight to heaven, or do you believe you sit there and like when Jesus comes again, that's when you go to heaven?
So there's a very big misconception about that, about people going to heaven.
Because I've heard it both ways from a lot of different people.
I believe that it's you're there until Jesus comes back.
So what we're told.
That's what I read about Revelations.
Because they're like, oh, everybody will be judged on the same time.
Yeah.
What we're told is that we'll be with Jesus. So this idea of going to heaven is a very foreign concept to the Bible.
So
because the Bible talks about new creation. That's what we seek. The in-between time, we're just told that we're going to be with Jesus. It doesn't really go over it much.
So do you see it more like kind of like it, not exactly like, but a purgatory almost, like you're in between?
Yes and no, because Paul does talk about it when he's talking about how when he was in prison and he was kind of saying how he would almost rather die and be with Jesus, but he said that the people here need me. So his idea was that it was actually preferred to be with Jesus than to be here.
But at the same time, people do believe that like when you die, it's like not black, but it just feels like instantly for the person that
it's a liminal
passed,
space.
just like instantly, as soon as they pass away, they're with. It's the judgment day type.
Yeah,
of thing.
it's like you being asleep. The time that you sleep is like
how it just
for you it feels like a minute. But
that could be. The only thing that we have in the Bible that talks about that kind of gray area, and it is a gray area, is that we will be with Jesus in that time.
Yeah,
and we will be waiting for the new creation. It doesn't say we're going to go to heaven.
I've heard it so many different ways.
And it also doesn't say that we're going to just kind of teleport, but it could mean that. It's a gray area, but we just know the only thing we told is that we'll be with Jesus in that time.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be completely answered until,
it's left a gray area for a reason. It's not what we're supposed to be. What we seek and what we desire is new creation. Is God making us in the new.
Yeah.
That this idea that we go to heaven when we die and that's where we stay is something that's not really common amongst New Testament authors. And that's not what their kind of thing is. It's the new creation and then all that. So new creation, the new heavens and the new earth, where we will be. This idea that the Bible is about bringing heaven to earth. It's never been about us going to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least what I take away from it.
But do you think in the sense of bringing heaven to earth is just spreading the word, or do you think it's physically bringing heaven to earth?
Well, bringing heaven to earth is,
it could be interpreted different ways. Interpreted, okay?
So, I mean, it's a process. And we see in the Old Testament, it was just like God was trying to make that covenant with the people when they kept failing. And then we see in the New Testament with Jesus, he started the process of bringing heaven down to earth and God's will being done. And then we're told that over time that eventually God's will be fully complete and fully done through the earth. And then we will have a new earth and a new heaven. And so when I say bringing heaven to earth is the process of God slowly establishing his will on the earth through Jesus.
Because it could be just bringing God to earth, being like spreading the word, making the earth as heaven would be of everybody believers,
Repeat that one more time.
So heaven coming to earth would be like bringing, like spreading the word, stuff like that, but everybody being believers. just like as it would be in heaven of everybody worshiping God, you know?
No, it doesn't say that everyone is going to be believers. It says that every knee will bow, every tongue will confess.
But I'm just saying, how do you interpret the heaven on earth? Do you think of it as everybody being believers or physically heaven on earth?
No, what I think it means is that God will have reign on earth fully, and he will.
That can also be interpreted. Dang, I can't. Interpreted.
We should get back to our topic anyway. These are all like really big.
Bro, that's what you do on podcasts. You don't stick to the script, bro. You go off topic, bro.
No,
that's
I know
how it works.
Good, but like these are
I'm trying to spice it up.
You're asking really big questions.
I'm trying to spice it up.
No, I know it's good. I trust me. Like I want to talk about that kind of stuff, but like those are complex topics. I take a lot of time.
Interesting to listen to, bro.
Well, yeah, it's our series. Yeah. It's kind of like the thing that we're sticking to. For
yeah,
series.
Yeah. We want to like try and like keep it like somewhat like somewhat in the.
I've never clicked on a podcast and the whole thing be about the title.
Yeah, I mean, we don't like the whole thing isn't going to be exactly like we're going to go off in the tangents and whatever, but like these are like completely different questions. But like it's good. It's good.
They started related. That's how you start related and then you go off topic.
That's fair. Those are good questions. I hope I gave answers sufficient, but we don't have a lot of,
back knowledge.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I could probably ramble for like the next 2 hours on like one of those questions, but like, who wants to hear that?
That's what a podcast is for. 2-hour podcast. That's what I listen to at work. Or like 2-3 hour podcasts.
Yeah. I don't know. Those are
the long ones. Make the day go by faster at work.
A quote from Adam McHugh.
Okay, here we go. We're going back into it, but if you have something, add it.
That's what I'm here for.
The sort of people that we truly become is in large part determined by the voices that we choose to listen to. Truly, we do not have a choice of listening versus not listening. We all obey certain voices, and thus the question is not, will I listen, but which voices will I listen to? But it is not only a matter of choosing to listen to good voices over bad ones. If only it were as simple as the proverbial whispering angel and devil on our shoulders. It is also a matter of whether we will choose to listen to different voices that don't sound the same as our own. Will we listen to the voices of different cultures, ethnicities, backgrounds, and beliefs? Will we listen to the voices that unsettle us and make us feel anxious or guilty? If we choose to listen only to voices that echo our own, we will be limited in our growth and stunted in our spirituality. Choosing to tune in only to one or two stations may be uncomfortable, but it is not transformative. The voices we want to hear are not always the same as the voices we need to hear.
Yeah, that opens up a whole new kind of thing that we're talking about of how we need to be willing to. There's a good form of deconstruction. There's a good form of reconstruction. We need to be willing to listen to other people and to hear what they have to say.
Be willing to ask questions as well, because you don't learn unless you ask questions.
Yeah, it's very important that a lot of people put this aside, but it's important that the Bible is debated over time because it is a cross-cultural, cross-millennium piece of ancient literature that needs to be interpreted. So it is important that that's debated and that people have different ideas and beliefs and interpretations because not one person is going to be right.
No, because if there was one, if there was just one kind of, which one came first? Catholicism?
No, the chicken or the egg?
Just Judaism.
Oh, Judaism. Like if we stuck to Judaism and no one like reread the Bible and tried to interpret it, kind of like in the way that they think God wants it to be interpreted, then there would be no other like sub-religions, I guess.
Yeah.
And there would be no fresh ideas, and they would all just stick to what was already like believed in at the beginning, instead of learning what either is. I'm not saying, either what's like true or.
There's a difference between like new ideas that you're just completely adding on and like new perspectives and new, just like, not new perspectives, but like finding old ones and like
All right then.
actually finding out like the right way to like read the Bible, the right way to interpret it, because it is it's cross cultural, very important. Rylan has hands up. I'm going to finish this. So interpretation is important.
I raised my hand because I wanted to finish.
Rylan.
I know I had something to say and I wanted to get it in there. So, with the new interpretations versus new additions, right? Is that kind of what you're trying to get at? Is just like people adding stuff to the Bible that they want to believe? People, the churches, the woke churches that are like, oh, God's a woman. Oh, God was trans. Jesus was trans. All that stuff. Is people just adding stuff to the Bible that like it's like where? Tell me where it says
misinterpreting.
that.
Yeah, no, it's more
and
misinterpreting than they're adding. Yeah.
Well, no, trans Jesus is definitely adding. That is not misinterpreting.
Right. Yeah. That part's misinterpreting.
And nowhere in the Bible does it say God has gender fluid. He's a she of any sorts. That's
change the gender
just
fluid in my car.
That's just changing it completely. That's not even misinterpreting, saying that God's a woman.
Yeah, that's just adding.
That's adding. None of it is interpreting. That's adding.
Well, does it say God is a man?
It references as him.
Yeah.
Capital HIM.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, those are just like, there's just some of that is misinterpretation. Some of it is just like simply just adding what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's changing what they want. It's not adding.
Yeah.
Misinterpreting.
Well, just like
changing.
And that
a lot of Catholic churches are changing the verse a man should not bed with another man. They're kind of apparently like reinterpreting.
I think that's
written.
more of just modern day churches that want to. I don't even think it's just Catholicism. I think it's just modern churches that want to fit in with today's day and age of.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And in that case, I think it's misinterpreting because they aren't changing letters. They're just kind of like,
no, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's any misinterpretation there.
I get what you're both saying. So like you're saying that it's like they're purposely changing it. You're saying they're misinterpreting. It's kind of the same thing. Like they're misinterpreting it on purpose. I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Right.
That's changing. That's not misinterpreting. That's changing.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah,
they're kind of
well. Adding is kind of
interpretation,
like adding words to the Bible. They're just
that never really happens. Yeah,
that doesn't really happen. It's people just changing what they want. It's what they want to hear instead of what they need.
Yeah, I mean, and this has been happening for a long time. I mean, I don't know. I forget who it was. Thomas Edison who
I don't know. I just threw that out there.
Edison or Jefferson. He literally he read through the Bible. He read through the Bible and then he ripped out the pages that he didn't like. He ripped out everything he didn't like. And in the end, he had just like one tiny little Bible. I mean, and that's just like, I don't know. It's been a problem for a long time.
Of taking away from the Bible, there's a supposed missing book from the Bible.
The Book of Enoch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
I'm interested in that. I haven't looked too much into that, but I'm also really interested in it.
Well, the Book of Enoch has some crazy stuff.
I know that's why I'm interested in looking into it, but I'm also kind of like scared to look into it because it
talks about ancient Near Eastern kind of mythological creatures and also
really?
And
like mythical creatures, like
angels,
more of a spiritual realm type of. It's more on the spiritual realm of Christianity.
It was never deemed canon by any of the ancient Jewish traditions. Anyone ever really deemed it canon? It hasn't been deemed canon ever. So that's why it's not really. There's other reasons. I just heard something about this in a podcast I was listening to. But yeah, it's a crazy book. It was the best way to look at it is it was widely read. A lot of people read it. All the different books. There's those 5 books. I forget what they're called. That's out on the Catholic. I don't know. But then there's also Jewish books like the Mishnah and the Talmud who helped understand the law. There's books like that were widely read among Christians and Jewish people. But they weren't considered scripture.
Yeah,
that's where the Book of Enoch kind of lies.
It just is something that I kind of want to look into and see what it's all about.
I would recommend reading,
especially for someone who just wants to get more spiritual, I guess, and more in the spiritual realm of praying and stuff like that.
I don't think that will help too much with that.
Well, it helps you. It helps you understand what's going on a little bit more.
It was a part that was originally written in by the same people.
No, so it's an anonymous author writing in the place of Enoch.
Oh.
So We don't really know who it was. Yeah, there's a lot of mystery, but it is a weird book.
It is, from what I've heard, it's
If you want to read it. I don't think it'll help you too much with like your prayer life or stuff like
not
that.
even just prayer, just like how to handle the spiritual world.
Yeah, but we like I would say like to really hone in on like the scriptures first, and then once you have that, then like maybe you can, because I don't think that's gonna like knowing like what they are, what they look like. It's not gonna.
Well, not just that, but just like what it's all about.
Yeah, I guess if that's something you're interested in, then yeah, that's a whole.
It's a whole nother.
It's a big one.
I'm on a whole nother level.
Book of Enoch. You like all the really controversial topics, which is good. Those get attention.
And you're skipping them. I'm not saying anything.
No, I'm not skipping them. We're just like we're gonna go over them, but like
eventually,
we just rebranded it, so we do want to do a discipleship series before we kind of get into all the stuff. Like the next one's gonna be counterculture, so it's gonna be a lot of controversial topics.
Culture?
So it's gonna be a lot of controversial topics.
Just have an episode called "Is Jesus Trans?"
Is he a she? Question mark.
Yeah, we're gonna go over stuff on the
Daddy God.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, from a lot of different things, from liberal theology to conservative theology to
charismatic theology.
Charismatic, cessationist.
Yeah,
there's a whole bunch of
Pentecostal.
Pentecostal same things. Charismatic. Yeah. They're kind of no, Pentecostal is different from charismatic. They're similar.
No, Pentecostal is a denomination. Charismatic is a way of church.
Yeah, but like
so like there's like conservative church and then what is it? Charismatic, and like Catholic is a very conservative type of church.
Mm-hmm.
Pentecostal, non-denominational, those are very charismatic types of churches or denominations.
Yeah, but going back to what we were talking about with like the listening to other voices and whatnot, it's very important that we do make sure that we include those uncomfortable voices, those uncomfortable thoughts in our life, because we need to be convicted out of what we don't want to do. So yeah, that's how we grow. There's another quote that I want to bring up.
By who?
John Mark Comer.
From the book Practicing the Way.
Who is John Mark Comer?
It's this guy I listen to a lot of.
Very well
do you mention him a lot in this podcast?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really listen.
John Mark Comer teaching podcast. Once I'm done with his book, I'll drop it off here and you guys can read it. It's like 200 pages, not that bad.
I haven't read a book since before high school. The only book I read is the Bible.
It's great. Maybe someone will read it.
I forgot what I was going to say.
But I'm going
to DM
Katie
John Mark Comer and see
the
if
dog
he
will read
come
it.
on the podcast.
Go for it.
How many followers?
Oh, wait,
everyone at John Mark Comer.
He's in California now.
Okay.
Still, yeah. Right. But the quote. Any skilled con artist knows that the key to deceiving your mark is to get them to believe your scheme was their idea. Translation: the key to getting people to follow you is to convince them that they aren't following anyone at all. So that's this idea of kind of like everyone's kind of like their own person, and you do you, and speak your truth, and all these different kind of sayings and stuff that we see how like very independent, individualized kind of culture in our Western society. This plays into that perfectly, because when people are convinced that they are guiding their own path and doing their own way, they're deceived to the fact that they're actually being transformed by something or someone.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a lie to think that you're just completely forming your own way. Something or someone's forming you. It's how it's been since the beginning.
Yeah. And we all see the time throughout Jesus's ministry where he retreated to be alone with God and then returned from his work, or to do his work.
Yeah, that plays well into the whole idea of being with Jesus. We need to subtract time from our lives to be able to go and make time for God.
Yeah.
Jesus was very busy during his ministry. People were with him all the time. So he would purposely wake up very early. One night he stayed up through the whole night to pray. So it was very important to him to be alone with God, to pray with God. What?
Never mind.
No, say it. Go back. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna.
Don't be scared.
No, I was trying to say every time you said
Oh shoot! Have I been saying a lot?
Yeah. A verse that relates to
I haven't
this.
noticed you.
A verse that relates to this is Luke 5:16. Just kidding. Luke 5:16 that says,
Whatever.
"But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed."
Yeah.
That pretty much sums up what we just said.
Yeah, so we'll go over this a lot again too. Just subtracting rather than adding.
Yeah.
I'm watching it.
Don't add or subtract to the population, and you're good to go.
Subtract the ums.
Not exact. Subtract the add the Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, and we can't add Jesus to our already busy schedule. We have to subtract things that are already in our lives, and then add Jesus.
Well, you don't even have to just subtract stuff. It's even just like Ben said, just like make sacrifices. Wake up early.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, you're sacrificing
Sacrifice
taking away
something. Wake
sleep.
up early.
Adding Jesus.
Find your dwelling place, your secret
But
space.
one thing I do want to say is sleep is important. Like
Yes.
if you're like don't like if
Go to
you have
bed
the choice
early.
between taking away sleep and taking away phone time, take away phone time.
Yeah, of course.
Because
Yeah.
like I mean,
But if like you're super busy and like you can't,
it's hard to be a loving person if you don't have sleep.
like our
It is, yeah.
our youth pastor at our church, he'll wake up like a half an hour before he really needs to.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
thing to do.
But as long as you go to bed early the night before, then you're good.
Yeah.
And a half an hour is not that much. Let's be honest. You could get away with half an hour of losing
Yeah.
sleep. I
Yeah.
sleep 4 hours a night, 5 hours a night, and I'm
Probably
great,
more
guys.
sleep than that.
I'm great, guys. I'm definitely not falling asleep at work. It's amazing.
Yeah. So there's a quote from Francis Chan, and he says, "You find that the things that you let go while following Jesus were the things that were going to destroy you in the end." Very easy to see in our lives. Like I said over and over, the screen time on our phones.
Screen time check. Screen time check.
Screen time check. Oh gosh,
Screen time
Rylan,
check.
don't embarrass yourself.
No, pull yours. Pull yours.
Well, okay, that's
Compare screen time.
for me. I feel like it's different because I put like either YouTube or music on in like the background. Well, I
Guys,
guess
it's not
music's
even
different,
that.
but I usually put like YouTube on in the background when I'm literally doing like anything.
Guys, I'm
Yeah.
down 6%
So-
from last week. We're chilling.
So my
I'm not
screen
telling
time
numbers,
is,
but I'm
my
down
screen time is
6%.
usually over like 8 hours each day.
Yeah.
Is that-
I mean, it just
and I
depends
have-
on.
Well, and at work I use maps. I use
Yeah, it depends on like
stuff.
what.
I'm changing music all the time at work, changing podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, but
Changing
like
all
we
my
know how
things.
much we,
Yeah, it just depends on the apps that you use.
When you're on your break at work,
like I mean,
don't scroll TikTok.
Yeah, we've
open the Bible app.
yeah,
Scroll the Bible,
Yeah.
not TikTok.
we've gone over this how technology can be used for good or for evil.
Bible app adds video function, short form
Jesus.
videos.
This guy doesn't know
Thoughts?
what he's talking about.
Bro, tell me that wouldn't be fire, bro.
I don't know what you're talking.
New millennial age, freaking.
We're moving on. We're moving
TikTok.
on. A good
Biblical
quote from
TikTok and Bible
Francis
app.
Chan
I just read that.
says,
I
You
just read
find
that. I
that
just read that. Just read that.
Read it
Okay,
again.
that was "Be with Jesus." That's only the first one. We have 2 more to go. So
become like Jesus
is our next one.
is our next one.
Yeah,
Every day
so
I'm living
we see
more
that-
like Jesus.
We see that this is, as you notice, this is kind of like a linear thing, but being a disciple is not linear. This is just the most kind of straightforward, easy way we can put it. But we see that when we spend more time with Jesus and we're with Jesus more, we'll become more like Jesus. It's just kind of a chain reaction. Although discipleship, like I said, is not a linear process. It's kind of the closest we get.
Yeah.
Shut up.
We must understand we need God to work in us.
Yes.
Yeah, good quote. 1 John. I'm saying it now. 1 John 2,
I don't
6,
hear any of you guys saying it.
Whoever claims to live in him must live as Jesus did.
Yeah.
Jesus did what none of us can do and lived closest to God than any of us can conceive.
Yeah. Yep. And then Ephesians 5, 1-2. Follow God's example, therefore, as dearly loved children, and walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God.
That was a good spot to have a though, because you're thinking that's a good spot to have a but like when you're talking and like and you just like you do and you, that's not
And another good quote from Kingsley Opuwari Manuel
Mm.
says, spiritual formation without the circumcision of the heart is simply behavior modification and no real transformation really happens.
Yeah. And that emphasizes the fact that we need God to do something in our lives. That is like what we were talking about earlier with heaven coming to earth when Jesus did what he did on the cross.
Full circle, baby.
That started the transformation process. That was also the circumcision of the heart.
Mm-hmm.
That was God cutting away that evil part and making it so that it is possible for us to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
And to do what he did and to live like him and to slowly become like him.
Can we get an counter
It's
for
more
the
than your
end of the video? Edit it in the
more
end.
than your
lying.
It's more than your thoughts and actions that modify transformation in your life. It's you got to put those thoughts and actions into your heart and pray that God changes your, I guess, feelings for it.
Yep.
Your, like what you do.
Yeah. There's another quote that says without God we can't, without us he won't. And that's just talking about what this is right here. That spiritual formation without circumcision of the heart is simply behavior modification. Without God, we can't. Nothing's going to happen. No transformation is going to happen. It's just behavior. But without us, God won't. So it's all important to keep in mind. So yeah, it's important to see that like over time, whatever someone gives most of their time to, they become like that person. That's an obvious. You don't have to be college educated, whatever, to understand that wherever you put most of your time is what you're going to become most like.
Yeah.
You're going to adopt the side effects that come with that. Like if we're on our phone way too much and we're doing, whatever the side effects of that is going to be, just severe. Just like we're going to be more anxious. We're going to be more doubtful. We're going to be more impatient. But if we put more of our time into someone like Jesus, we're going to be more patient, more loving. It's just obvious, what we put our time into is what we become.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Good quote for that from the Bible is 2 Corinthians 3:18, which says, "And we all who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory are being transformed into his image with ever increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit."
Yeah. Contemplating, which is basically just focusing on God.
Yeah. And another good quote is Romans 8:2-8, which says, "Because through Christ Jesus, the law of the Spirit who gives life has set you free from the law of sin and death. For what the law was powerless to do because it was weakened by the flesh, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh to be a sin offering. And so he condemned sin in the flesh in order that the righteous requirement of the law might be fully met in us, who did not live according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. Those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires, but those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. The mind governed by the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. Those who are in the realm of the flesh cannot please God."
Yeah, this is just emphasizing the fact that we need God.
Yeah.
We need that transformation. We need him in our lives.
God opens that bridge to be able to transform your life.
Yeah, to make spiritual transformation a possibility that actually transforms you rather than just, I saw her too. Yeah, are you guys ever gonna do that? Huh? We keep trying to find a date to be with church. Like my only few days.
What job? I don't know why she's so timid. She can go in her crate. Her crate's your safe place. Here you go.
Katie. He's a sweetie.
I don't know. She's shaking.
I don't know what her deal is.
I don't know.
Maybe it's like all the new people upstairs. I don't know if that's
No, I mean, that hasn't happened before. I don't know.
she's scared of something.
Yeah. You're okay.
Oh, that's what she's scared of.
I think she should just just have her figured out. You want to say the next quote?
Yeah. So we just emphasize that idea that we just need God. And we have the next quote from John Mark Comer.
Oh my gosh.
Who's John Mark?
It says, you could argue that joy is the defining feature of a life organized around God, but it's rarely the explosive happiness of an emotional high, dramatic yet fickle and fleeting. It's more like a quiet undercurrent that slowly accumulates at the base of your soul, increasingly welling up like a soft melody that over the years becomes the soundtrack of your life. Very well written, but it's
the soundtrack of your life. I like that.
Yep. And that's how we have to see this idea of formation, becoming a disciple is, like he said, it's not this explosive, like, oh, I love Jesus. Like, that's great. Like, do that. Like, yes, you should be that excited. But more than that.
Just live like that.
But more than that, it's this quiet, just undercurrent, like he says, of joy that comes through certain things over your life that just becomes who you are, as a person, and that's
every day I'm looking more like. I mean,
because Jesus had those times where he was alone by himself and he wasn't like jumping for joy, yelling, "God, I love you, God!" He was doing it.
Jumping for joy, more like jumping for
being
Jesus.
humble.
Yeah.
I guess respecting those around you that, I don't know what I was going to elaborate on.
Yeah. And a really easy example of this is elderly people.
Mm-hmm.
If you have been around a lot of elderly people, you know that oftentimes they're either very kind, loving, gentle, patient people, or they're just the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And they're just, it's a dread to be around them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they are the embodiment of a lifetime of decisions that they've made and formation that they've chosen. If they chose to choose the spirit over the flesh, if they chose God, and if they chose to disciple under Jesus, chances are they're gonna
just let her be. Let her be, please.
They're gonna have more of like a joyful spirit to them. But if they kept on choosing the world and desires and whatnot, they're gonna be the opposite. Yeah. There's hardly any in between. Yeah, like sometimes you get like an in between old person, but it's rare.
Mm-hmm.
So
those anger ones, their soundtrack is like Slipknot and I don't know.
Heavy metal death.
Yeah, no, it's more like
Plantera.
Period. No idea what's happening, bro. If you heard that your entire life, would you not go crazy?
Oh yeah, of course.
I don't think I'd be here anymore. It would have mentally just destroyed my brain.
I was just checking out. All right, and we have our next topic, our final one, doing as he did. So we're with Jesus. That causes us to become like Jesus. When we like Jesus, we do what he did.
Yeah. And practices are a crucial part of this, living the way that Jesus did when he was by himself or with other people. Making sure that you stay holy even when you are not around people that make you holy.
Yeah. A great verse about this is John 14:12. Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. Pretty obvious. It's just like doing what Jesus did, living his lifestyle, seeing Jesus as the way and the truth. A lot of people see Jesus just as the truth, but Jesus is the way and the truth. That Eugene Peterson quote we had a couple episodes ago, the Jesus way wedded to the Jesus truth brings about the Jesus life. And people often overlook Jesus as the way, as a lifestyle and decisions and things that you have to actually do in your life.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And 1 Peter 2:21 is a good one that relates to it, which says, "To this you were called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps." That relates perfectly to what just said.
yep. Yeah. And it's not only just a matter of doing what
Was written, it's just realizing what he went through.
Yeah. Yeah. Realizing that Jesus he sacrificed himself for us so that we wouldn't have to, but he also showed us how to do that in our own lives. He showed us that it is going to require suffering. There's a lot of things that are going to happen to us, a lot of bad things that are going to be out of our control. And that's how God oftentimes does a lot of like really deep work, is through stuff that we can't control. But it's important to understand that like suffering is a big part.
Yeah.
And it's not just doing practices that can be, annoying at the start or whatever, or kind of like time consuming. It's about through suffering.
Yeah. And it's not just him that had to suffer. It's everyone, that has to suffer to live the way like Jesus. Because, it's obviously not easy putting your phone down. It's not easy removing certain things from your life that need to be removed.
Yeah. There's another quote from John Mark Comer, but I'm just going to paraphrase it. He's basically just talking about
John Mark Comer?
Up and downstream disciplines. I'm not going to answer you. He's just talking about up and downstream disciplines. Upstream is it's obvious what it means. It means that it's harder for you to do. And the downstream disciplines are something that is going to be easier for you to do. So it's good to keep that blend. Oftentimes we want more downstream than upstream, because in our lives we're going to face challenges that are going to be upstream anyways. So we don't really want to put on too much upstream and then make it, a difficulty. But, what he also goes over is that, if there's something that you need to stop doing, if you want to like cut an addiction or whatever from your life, then maybe you need to go more into like practices of abstinence. So fasting, silence and solitude, prayer, just abstaining from stuff. Or if there's something that you need to do that you need to like have the courage to do, you want to get into more practices of engagement. So community, gathering, worship, whatever, you need to get more engaged in that. So that's the quote summarized.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The ministry Jesus took part of and commissioned us in making disciples of all nations is another huge part of what doing as he did.
Yeah, and the main verse that goes over this is really easy. It's the Great Commission, obviously. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And behold, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age."
Yeah, I think one of the most
popular
verses. Yeah,
because it's a very important verse.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, told us we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's there's a lot to that. Because if we want to make disciples, we have to be disciples of all nations. Some people are called to missionary work.
Everybody's called to do missionary work, whether that's outside country, inside your own town, inside your own work.
When I say missionary, you know what I mean. Yes, we're all called to missions. We're all called to.
We're all called to evangelize, no matter where it is.
Yeah, just what I'm saying is missionary. Like you're going across the world to spread to like the 1040 window where it's like Christianity is persecuted.
I mean, yeah, but I know some people that listen to this may be newer.
Yeah.
So we want to clarify for everybody.
Yes.
Moving that beanbag got me out of breath.
What?
Moving the beanbag just took everything out of me.
This guy needs to go to the gym.
I'm sorry, my work doesn't let me lift more than 40 pounds because it's not safe.
A great what?
To wait away the other day.
A great quote from Francis Chan says, making disciples is all about seeing people transformed by the power of God's word, If you want to see that happen in others, you need to be experiencing such transformation yourselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make disciples if you don't know who God is.
Yeah.
Jesus is.
That's something that's often kind of overlooked. I think too often is where if we focus way too hard on just like, okay, I'm a Christian, I need to go make more disciples, and we don't focus on our transformation and our process of discipleship, we'll often teach people the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
Also, even everybody's called to bring different amounts of people to God. Even if it's like your whole life, it's just one person. If that's what God had planned for you, it's just that one person. Now I'm not saying, oh, go out and like, oh, I saved one person. Like one person came to Jesus because of me. I don't have to do any more. No. Don't get discouraged if not everybody decides right then and there. It's all about planting seeds and even just showing that there's something more to life that just gets curious, right? Get someone curious. One of my good friends, Leo from my church, he had a really good way of saying it. It was Jesus is a light in there in a cardboard box. You show that little bit of light. You poke that little hole in the cardboard box. They get curious as to what that light is, and so they start taking more bits of that cardboard box away, revealing the light of Jesus Christ, turning themselves. It's just because it's God's plan ultimately. Just one person, if that's all it is, don't be discouraged by it, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that I had a good thought, but I kind of let it go.
It wasn't that good then, huh?
No, it was good.
Also,
Why'd you let it go?
What? Never mind.
No, I was just talking about how I was just gonna like say something about how like the whole like planting the seed thing is good, but we also need to not just like, we need to like what you're saying, we have to take opportunities when they arise.
You're saying because you're thinking. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. But we need to take those opportunities that are presented to us by God. And if that opportunity is, maybe it's just a one-time thing, but
She's falling asleep.
She was dozing. She was like,
Was she hitting the full on like
So
old
yeah,
man falling asleep in the rocking chair?
with their heads like up. Yeah. They just go.
Waking yourself up.
But yeah, the opportunities it could be just like a one-time thing, but I feel like oftentimes it's like a pouring out, like we talked about before. Jesus poured out into his disciples. He completely flipped the switch of how we saw like the rabbi student tutor method in that Greco-Roman world, where the students would seek the rabbi and be like, please let me apprentice under you or whatever. But in this case, Jesus is like, he pours out into them, does everything for them. He does so much for them. So I think that's also important to keep in mind, that it can be either way. So we don't want to half-truth it.
Yeah.
Another good Francis Chan quote is, Jesus said, go and make disciples, but so often we just sit and make excuses. It's pretty true. I do this all the time in my own life. When I see someone on the side of the street who's homeless, who I could give money and then, or food, and then ask them, do you need prayer? Is there anything you want to talk about? It's something that we often just, we make excuses, and we'll say like, if I give him my money, like he's just going to go spend it on drugs, which that could be true.
Yeah.
But it's an excuse to stop and talk to them and to be like, hey, to show them, to let them experience that love, and just to be like, hey, what do you need me to pray for? Hey, do you need to talk about anything? Hey, do you need whatever?
Yeah.
Maybe you can offer them a job. Who knows?
Yeah, because they're in like the most vulnerable state in their life.
Yeah.
Rather than someone, evangelizing to someone just walking on the street,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. Like I don't want to like use this example because I don't want to use this like a self-righteous thing, but I did that one time, where I stopped and I gave a guy some money and I asked him, what do you need to pray for? And he just said stability, which was like surprising to me because I was like, man, like most people tell me like these guys are like drug addicts or whatever, which is probably true. But like the fact that he was like, man, this just recently happened to me. So I just want stability. I just want, whatever. It just
Yeah.
kind of hit me because it was like,
It's mostly just like kind of where they are,
yeah.
like locally,
Mm.
because a lot of, from what I know, like a lot of homeless from areas like Tacoma, it's usually drug related.
Yeah.
But other cities where they're where it's not like centralized, then a lot of them tend to be from other issues because obviously it takes a lot of money to live in this world.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best thing that we can do for homeless people is to have something prepared and ready, like a little pack or something of like maybe
A
like
to-go box.
yeah, like a
To-go bag.
toothbrush, toothpaste,
Hit 'em with the
essentials, a little
supply
mini
drop.
Bible, some food, some water,
Mm.
and then you can give it to them, and then you can ask them what they need, praying for, and I think that's the best thing that we can do in that case. But there's so many, man. Like you can just go drive in any big rural city, and you can see so many opportunities.
Yeah.
Even just on freeway exits, like the one down off here.
Mm.
There's always one on the exit coming home from church.
Yeah.
There's just always one.
We always have opportunities, not just in our day-to-day lives, but oftentimes it's hardest with people that we're closest to. Because we feel like we can be the most just kind of, I can kind of just blow you off right now, and then like I don't have to worry about it because I know you'll come back and be like,
and obviously for people that are close to you, you feel like if you display that information, they're gonna think differently about you.
If it's someone new, it's like it's your first impression. It doesn't really. You think of it as like, oh, I'll never see them again.
Yeah.
If they take it and use it for the good, good. If they don't, if they think of me weird, I'm never gonna see them again. But if it's your friend and you think they'll think differently of you.
yeah. And a quote that kind of plays into this is Howard G. Hendricks saying, "You teach what you know, but you reproduce what you are." And that's
you are who you hang out with, pretty much.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, kind of.
You are
It's a little bit
who
different.
you spend time most with.
Yes. I think what he's saying, you reproduce what you are, is that who you are on the inside. It's like what Jesus said when like what is on your heart, and eventually what defiles you is what comes out of your mouth.
Right.
What is on your heart is what will eventually exit you through some form of expression. So you can only hide your true self for so long.
Yeah, or like if you bottle up anger or sadness or whatever, it's all going to come out at once in a big fountain.
Yeah, the reason I tied this into what we were talking about with like close people we're close to is because we can give that first impression and make it seem like we're really good or whatever, but over time they're gonna eventually, we're gonna not be able to use that mask.
Yeah,
it's gonna eventually fade.
Like you act different around your parents than you do your friends, right?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
that's true.
Like I'm quiet. I used to be quiet around my parents, and then I'd hang out, with you guys, and I'm yelling, screaming, doing stupid stuff. But at home,
well, that's more
act the same around my parents. I feel like
that's more of like a relational thing in the sense that your parents wouldn't enjoy it if you screamed and yelled.
Right.
But like
I don't know. Have you met my sister growing up? She ain't scared to talk loud, chew loud, fart loud,
well,
burp loud.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I also feel like for bigger missionaries, like when you go international, I feel like you need to know more, like have more knowledge of the Bible, especially when you're leading or around people that are leading, because it's hard to teach people about the word when you don't know the word.
Yeah, missionaries have to be very specially trained people.
Yeah.
I would not, I think anyone would attest to this, is that you need to be trained in some, obviously you need to most likely be bilingual. You need to understand the culture. You need to understand how to be able to stay there for long periods of time. So you need to understand how to be able to make money for yourself.
Yeah.
You need to understand a lot of things. And you also need to have a very good understanding of your faith, because if you go there and you're very trained in how to make money and bilingual and you know how to all the culture and whatever, but you don't have a good understanding of your faith, you're going to do more harm than good.
Right. Yeah.
So
of course.
it's very important.
Because you're teaching people about Jesus. You're not teaching people about yourself. Got a good quote from my pastor, Ryan Kim. He's an amazing guy. He said in the last sermon, he said, "It's you could either be a or sorry, what was it? Yeah, you could either be a Christian for 20 years, or you can either be a Christian for 1 year 20 times." Saying that like you can improve yourself over those 20 years rather than doing 1 year of what you're doing and then going back to stage one because you didn't learn anything and then doing that 20 more times.
Yeah.
You're not going to go anywhere.
Yep. Yeah, you have to take a step. You have to take next steps.
Yeah.
You have to take.
I really like that quote.
That is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And through it all, we're supposed to do everything that Jesus did. You know, I think what I really want to highlight here is the love aspect of it, where Jesus, through all the practices and through missionary work and through making disciples, there is always love in deeply embedded in his ministry. And there's a quote from Robbie Dawkins that says, "Nothing is stronger in disarming the kingdom of darkness than love. Love is the thing that Satan can't stand. Love is the weapon of mass destruction. Satan is the one who heaps shame on us. He's the accuser, and in our approach to people, we should never agree with the accuser says about them. Satan is the one whispering in people's ears, God is repulsed by you. God is saying, I love you. I'm crazy about you. Come home to me." It's like, I don't know. That's definitely the underlying theme that we see throughout all of Jesus' ministry. That's really important to highlight.
Yeah.
As we close this episode out.
And there's things like love. There's a reason why those are the things that can beat Satan in different scenarios.
Yep.
Yeah. I wanna end with a quote by John Mark Comer.
John Mark Comer. Guys.
Who's John Mark Comer?
I like this.
John.
The single most important question is, are we becoming more loving? No. Are we becoming more biblically educated? Or practicing more spiritual disciplines? Or more involved in church? Those are all good things, but not the most important thing.
Yeah.
The most important thing is that you're following Jesus.
And that you're becoming more loving.
Yes. Exactly.
Every day I'm living more like Jesus.
Yep. Every day I'm shuffling.
I'm not sure. We went pretty in depth, so we could just close out the series here and not go. It's up to you.
Episode 3, we're done.
Do you think so? How much do you think you have more of?
I just think that we would kind of be.
Does this part need to be talked into the microphone or?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. I just think we might be kind of repeating.
Yeah.
I think we kind of went over this a lot. We already went over the practices in our previous Waymaker series. Waymaker series.
Oh, yeah. Waymaker series.
So we went over the practices.
That was nice.
And we talked about being with Jesus, being like Jesus, doing as he did. It's not simple, it's complex, but we kind of went over the major stuff. Maybe in the future we can do a more in-depth thing. But I do kind of want to move into more different topics that we haven't done yet.